Hello and welcome to the sewing studio. Today I'm going to show you how to make a shopping bag from scraps, and I've used up lots of scraps here, so let's get started. To make the bag today you're going to need lots of scraps. You're even going to use up some of your scrap wadding, and then the lining I'm going to use calico, but if you've got a big piece of fabric that you have had left over from something else, you can use that. The other thing that's good about this is you can even use up all those ends of threads that you've got on bobbins. You know, when you open your bobbin case and then you see all these different ones and you think, well, I'm never going to use that again. It doesn't matter. You can use those to have all your bobbins lined up, so you can just change your bobbin as you piece your scraps together. And this is a really good way of using everything up. So if you've got a craft room that looks anything like mine, I think I need to make lots of these bags. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our scraps and we're just roughly going to cut them into strips. So you can see I've got this odd shape piece here. Now it doesn't matter how wide this is, so I'm just going to cut that across there like that. I'm going to cut the selvage off, but if you had a pretty selvage, you could leave it on because it doesn't matter. Nothing matters today. So you can see I've got a bit here, looks like it's been chewed. So I'm just going to trim that off. And then I'm going to cut that. So I'm not worrying about the end pieces at the moment because that will be trimmed off later on. So I've got some that I've already cut sort of straight edged. Let's just do this one as well. I'm just going to straighten that up a little bit. And then I'll get 2 strips out of this one. You can even use a piece like this where you can see I've joined lots of batik pieces, and this was a piece left over from making a feather. So that's perfect. That can go in and it just gives a different colour and a bit more texture to our bag. So we go to the machine and we're going to join all of these together. It doesn't matter about being too accurate. We just want to join a strip which is going to form part of our bag. So I'm just joining all my strips together. It doesn't matter that some are longer than others. I'll show you how I'm going to trim those and frame them with some other fabric in a moment. So I'll just finger press them and then add the next piece. So you just carry on joining your strips together for as wide a piece as you want. So you just keep going. It all looks like this. It looks a bit raggy at the moment. So I'm going to go over to the iron and I'm going to press it, and then I'm going to trim it and show you how it fits into the front of the bag. So I'm not being too fussy about my pressing with this because it doesn't really matter. I haven't got to be very accurate with this, because we're just using up all of our scraps. And then we're going to tidy this up, because what we want to do is we want a strip that looks like this that we can put in the side of our bag. So I've just used up some different greys. You can see I've got 3 different greys here that I've used to frame the strips. So it depends on what size bag you want, how many scraps you're going to use. You could use all scraps and you wouldn't have to do this strips in between. It's entirely up to you. So we're just going to tidy this up. Again, you don't have to be completely accurate with this. So I just put the ruler to the shortest piece that I've got and cut. Now some of you might think, oh, she's wasted even more fabric, but I'm doing this for speed, so that's why I don't worry about all of these lengths. But if you didn't want to waste anything at all, you could cut all your scraps to the same length. But I think for speed and the actual scrappiness of different sizes, I think it's better to do it this way. So I'm just going to line it up to my shortest piece. I'm probably going to keep this bit because this will go again in another one. And I know that some people use these very tiny pieces for applique, or even snip them up and use them as toy stuffing. So nothing is wasted. So we have a strip that looks like this. And the next thing to do is to continue making your strips so that you've got enough for however wide you want your bag to be. So I've got 2 strips, as I say, they've been framed with the grey. So now I'm going to make the lining for this bag. So mine measures, the height of my bag is 16, and at the moment this piece measures 26 wide. So the next thing is to cut my 2 pieces of calico the same size as this. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces of calico 16 by 26 for the lining of the bag. So I've measured the calico and I've actually attached the calico. So if you were using a patterned fabric, you would want to attach it to what's going to be the top of your bag, right sides together. So I've done that with both pieces. So you can see that I've done that on this one as well. So at what's going to be the top of our bag, I've attached whatever the lining is going to be. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to join the lining together. So right sides together, right side of your bag together, right side of your calico together. And we are going to sew all the way around, and we're going to leave a gap in the top piece here. So we're going to leave a gap here because this is going to be the gap that we're going to turn the whole thing through, and that's going to be in our lining piece. So I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit, make sure it all lines up, and then I'm going to go to the machine. I'm going to put a pin here to remind myself not to sew across the gap, because I've done that before now. I've stitched the whole thing up and then not been able to turn it through. Very frustrating. So I'm just going to pop some pins there like that to remind myself to leave a nice big gap. And then I'm going to go back over to the machine and I'm going to sew this all the way around. So I've stitched all the way around, and I am just checking that I've got a nice big gap here for turning through. I'm going to snip off the corners. Now, if you wanted to box your corners, I haven't done that today, but if you wanted to box your corners, we've got another tutorial that shows you how to do this, and that will be in the link below. So now I'm going to turn it all through. So we've turned it through, and now I'm just going to give it a quick press, and then what you would do is you would just slip stitch this gap closed at the bottom. Now we've turned it through, or you could just take it back out and machine across. So I'm just going to give that a quick press, and then we're going to make some handles for it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the handles. So I've got some scrap wadding here and I've got a strip of fabric, and I'm going to use a piece that is the width of a bolt, and this piece measures, just measure it for you, this piece measures 4 inches, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my piece of wadding down the middle of it. I'm not being too fussy about the fact that I've got a fatter piece at the top and a skinnier piece at the bottom, but you could cut yours if you wanted to. I just want to use up all of my scraps. So I'm literally going to turn in both sides of the handle, both sides of the fabric rather, onto the wadding, and then pop a pin in, and then I'm going to machine all the way down, and then I'm going to attach the handles, and I'm going to do this twice. So you can see here that I'm just tucking in the fabric, so I'm covering my raw edges. And then when I get to the end, I'm just going to tuck the end pieces in to hide that raw edge at the end, like that. And pop a pin in there. I'm just going to tuck those in out of the way so you can't see those. And then I'm going to machine down. So I'm just going over to the machine to finish the 2 handles. So I've sewn the handles down the side, so I've got my piece of wadding inside and I've stitched all the way down, and then I'm going to attach the handles. So what I've done, I've already put one handle on, and so I'm just going to measure from the edge of the bag to see where the handle comes, so that I've got them both in the same place. So I'm just going to put that under there and pop a pin in. And then bring the handle round so that they're the same. So they're the same height, and then I'm going to put that under there and pop a pin in. And then I'm just going to run a line of stitching twice across there just to reinforce it. So I'm just going over to the machine to secure the second set of handles. So you can see that I've attached the handles and I've made them the same length. So that's how you make your shopping bag out of scraps. So I've used up all sorts of scraps for this. Scraps of wadding, strips of fabric, even if you've got binding left over, you can use that. So it's the ideal thing to get rid of all the scraps in your room, and you can even put a piece of fabric in the wrong way round and nobody will notice. I've only just noticed now that I've stitched that, and that's the reverse of the fabric. But hey, does it matter? It's a shopping bag made out of scraps. So as always, have fun, and I look forward to seeing you next time here in the sewing studio.